Thank you for that musical selection. I think we all felt that. So to continue on, this journey on this mission trip was very interesting. And it started a while ago when the hurricane happened. The youth and I, we were going to go on a mission trip to San Francisco, and that was the original plan. When the hurricane hit Houston, I had the idea I really just wanted to send 2 boxes of stuff out to Texas, help friends and family that I knew were in need. So I called Pastor Sauls with this request, and he told me to keep pressing on and continue my leadership. And I sat right there and I asked you guys to help me donate and send some items there. And with a blink of an eye, those 2 boxes quickly became an 18-wheeler. Now that sounds good, but it's also expensive. So we were trying to figure out, how to raise funds so we can get this 18-wheeler down there, and we did that with some partners, and we got that stuff down there, and they really got in the hands of people that needed it. And that was real important for me. So thank you for helping me step up and getting that stuff to those people. And throughout the time of the trip, I thought about it. It was a different experience than camp. Camp, we have to fight the bugs and waking up early, all the children. But in Houston, we fought a new battle. It was the cold. I felt really bad the first day when all the kids arrived, about 1 o'clock in the morning, January 1st. And I said beforehand that Houston does not get this cold at all, because it really doesn't. But that day happened to be 23 degrees, and it remained that way the rest of the week. I felt really bad, but they fought through it throughout the week. And when we woke up the first morning, we decided to take a trip around some areas of Houston that were affected by the hurricane. And the kids really saw these areas that weren't even poverty-stricken areas, but real common areas. They were $1 million homes that were affected with water as high as myself. And a lot of their stuff was still outside in their front porch, in the front yard, waiting to be picked up by the trash, waiting for someone to help them come paint. And there were people still working on their houses while we were there. So this is the first day we saw this. I know it's cold. We're standing outside, and I looked in their faces, and they looked defeated like, Joe, what are we doing? What are we going to do? So I wanted to introduce some common ground to them, so we went to go get some tacos. I love tacos. I know they love tacos. And they had a good time eating those tacos. And after that, we went to the Houston Food Bank and did about 5 hours of community service. And in that time, we were able to provide over 12,000 meals for families in need. After grabbing dinner, going home, getting some rest, and I got the first batch of pictures from Shalise, I realized we were really off to a great start, and this was going to be an exciting trip. So I woke up the next morning, and I continued to tell the kids. We started off with morning devotion. I called it Mo Devo. And Sydney and Raven make sure I kept it short, because I'm a little bit long-winded when I talk to them. And I saw that they really were ready to tackle the mission that we had this week. So as we pushed forward, Kaylin and Veronica managed to keep the inventory in their kitchen on point and make sure we had breakfast every morning. That was a key part. Natalie, I got to get to know her and her singing, which is really awesome. And I got to get to know Hunter better, who wants to be an engineer. And on top of that, I got to see my 3 stooges, Devin, Sean, and Jonathan, find their golf swing at Top Golf. Another key point was, in my last day of morning devotion, Mo Devo as I called it, Raven and Blair actually told me that they'd rather hear John Gray speak instead of me. So I knew we had did a good job in letting them hear his message. The trip, I thought leading up to this point, was perfect, and I wanted to make sure that every moment they enjoyed it, and every moment they were just impressed, and not just working, but also volunteering. And throughout the trip and to the end of the trip, I just kept processing in my head, how can this be better? How can they get something from it? How can I get something from it? I was just such an autopilot. And I thought about a few months before the trip, a few weeks before the trip, a lot of things transpired and gave me a few reasons maybe not to go. It wasn't just me that helped put this trip together. It's you guys as a congregation. My co-partners, Annetta Smith, who really played an integral part in getting us a grant that helped us get some funds to get the flights there. Reverend Allison, who also helped us do the fundraisers that we had, the multiple fundraisers. And it was interesting because we didn't just do one. We said, let's hit them with all the fundraisers, and it worked. After God had led them other places, I called myself alone and was wondering, how can we continue this? What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And Pastor Sauls and I talked, and we talked every other day, sharing resources in Houston, reaching out to other churches out there, trying to find places to stay, trying to find things to do, but just make sure that we had an agenda that was full so that every day was full with something. What would I do and how would I do it? But I knew I wasn't going to quit because I don't know how to quit. But the real question was, how am I going to take these kids? Why, what, and when? There were so many reasons why I could have stepped back, but I couldn't. 5 years ago when my mom was diagnosed with cancer, without advertisement, I leaned to the ministries here to really help be my support because I was just simply alone. I have friends and family to talk to, but idle time is the worst. When I joined my camp ministry my first year going, I really joined just to be a kid again and hang out with the boys and just get away from the environment and the technology. All I remember is the parents saying, good luck, he's yours for the week. Everyone notified me the high school boys were a group of, they were messy, they were stinky, they were always late, and they just didn't want to do anything. So it reminded me of myself. But by the end of the week, we really had the best cabin. We were always on time. They had the best talent show, and it was awesome. So as much as I appreciate the good job, high school kids are an easy group to manage. It's the toddlers, it's the little ones that are hard. Shout out to Debbie, because I see them working with them, and their favorite word is no. Without even meaning, it's easy for them to say no. As we get older, we start to realize, why do they say that? Because it's us. Because without knowing, without wondering, we say no to anything just because it's so easy to flow off our tongue of our mouths. So this was my moment. Do I say no? This was my shot. And the question was, how would I take it? I had to make the decision, do I continue to go on the trip? Do I step up or step back? Have you ever had a step up moment? Because life is full of them. There's some places where you force to step up in our past, like choosing to go to college, getting a new job, making new friends, moving to another city. But I've always believed that God wants us to be step up kind of people. He loves us and has a plan for us. And if you can see what he sees when he's looking at our life and our future, it'll blow your mind. But don't misunderstand, you always have a second option. You can always step back. No one's going to be mad at your decision, but if we're going to be who God made us to be, then the first big move is to learn how to step up in life. Another ministry I leaned on for support was my disciples ministry. And the disciples I remember talking about the story of Joshua and Caleb, and I was trying to find a scripture, a story that the kids could connect to while we were on this trip, while they were on this journey. And I chose Joshua and Caleb because they were just regular guys in the Bible, and they weren't different from myself. Joshua and Caleb, they weren't just some heroes, but they were chased with challenging circumstances. And in those circumstances, they stepped up and they reached the potential God had for them. It all started when Moses led the Hebrew people out of slavery from Egypt, and Joshua was one of those people that wandered the desert, hearing about this promised land that eventually God would bring to them. This place was going to be awesome. And since Joshua spent 40 years in the desert, you can imagine how high their expectations were. Finally it's the big day, and the Hebrew people boarded the land, and the book of Numbers tells us this: send out men to explore the land of Canaan, the land that I'm giving to the Israelites. Send out one leader from each of the 12 ancestral tribes. So he didn't name the people that they were going to bring out. He said, pick out some leaders for me. So Moses picked 12 guys to do some kind of recon mission on the land, and Joshua and Caleb were one of these guys, and that's a huge honor, right? You know, Moses tells them, hey, when you go into this land, there's a few things I want you to look for. See if anyone's living there. If so, how strong they are. And pay attention to the soil and the land and the fruit and the trees, and then let me know. Come back and give me a report. And that sounds easy, but this wasn't some happy, let's go see what's this land that we have, because if God's going to give us something, he's just not going to hand it to us. It's going to be a little bit challenging to go get it. So this was a spy mission, but they go off and they spend 40 days exploring the land, and they find good fruit. They found some grapes. They found some figs, but they also found people. So they get back to Moses and fill them in, and also the rest of the people. And Numbers says it this way: we entered the land you sent us to explore, and indeed is a bountiful country, a land flowing with milk and honey. Here's the kind of fruit it produces. But the people living there are powerful, and their towns are fortified. We even saw giants there. We can't go up against us. They're stronger than we are. Basically, they said good news, bad news. The land is good. There's a lot of fruit. You know, it's flowing with milk and honey, but there's some really big dudes in that land, and I don't think we could face them. Right then, 10 of those 12 men ran into the first thing that would keep us from stepping up when it comes to face-to-face opportunities, challenges, and what God has for our lives, and that's fear. They were afraid. They were scared, as some of you say, scared. How were they going to do this? How are they going to survive? And if so, this was a huge moment in God's plan for Israel. 10 of those 12 men took a step back. You know, you and I have been there a million times wanting to step back because of fear. It's that knot in your stomach that you're faced with when a challenging opportunity awakes. It's that same doubt, it's that same fear of failure that keeps you from trying or making new friends or even taking a step in your walk with God. You think there's no way this could happen. There's no point of even trying. It's impossible. So mentally or even physically, you take a step back. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of you knew me growing up. I wasn't a rebel, but I didn't like being told what to do. And I bet none of you guys had that problem, right? and it wasn't like I just was bad. You know, I just really didn't like being ordered around. And chances are you know what I'm talking about. It was absolute worst when my mom, my teachers, my coaches would tell me to do something that didn't exactly make sense. And when I asked them why, they gave me the same answer that made me want it to explode. And I bet you guys know that answer. Because I said so. Over time, you realize that because I said so is because I know better, and I want to help you. And see, God is a say-so God. And if we listen, we'll understand that he does have our best interests. He's not asking us to be perfect because he knows we're not. And this experience is normal and human. There'll always be a very logical reason to step back from where God is leading us. And if we're not careful, many of us will go through life stepping back from doing things we could have done and following God into things that he's inviting to do simply because we're afraid, we're scared. Simply because we look at the land and we give a bad report. That's what 10 of the 12 spies did. But no, not Joshua and his homie Caleb. You know, they came back and they gave a different report. The land we traveled through and explored is a wonderful land. And if the Lord is pleased with us, he will bring us safety into that land and give it to us. It is rich land flowing with milk and honey. Do not rebel against the Lord, and do not be afraid of the people of the land. They're only helpless prey to us. They have no protection, but the Lord is with us. Don't be afraid of them. They stepped up again. Did they see the giant walls? Yes. Were they afraid? Of course. So why did they give a different report? And there's one little phrase, and if the Lord. In the first report, all the spies talked about were the giants and the walls. But Joshua and Caleb's report, they remembered God. They focused on the obstacles in the report. The other guys focused on the obstacles in the report, but Joshua and Caleb focused on God, and that really made the difference. It didn't change what was in the land. It changed how they handled the fear. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. You know, they knew without God in the picture, the giants, well, would seem too big, the city's too strong, and the task too impossible. Fear will be in control, but when you factor in God, fear shrinks. It's very minimal. Giants seem less giant because God is bigger than giants. Strong walls seem less strong because God is stronger than those walls. Impossible obstacles seem possible because God is the impossible. Failure doesn't seem so scary. Losing doesn't seem like the end of the world. And hard work doesn't seem pointless. The reality didn't change. The giants were still giants, and the cities were established. This was true for all the 10 spies who stepped back. And it was also true for Joshua and Caleb, but because they factored in God in the report, they had the courage to step up. Where do you look at your life right now? Where's your report? It's 2018. New year, new me. We're 3 weeks in. You guys still on that? I am. You know, my prayer is that we start to factor in God because it changes everything about whether we step up or step back. If we want to be the people that step up into all that God has planned for us, we got to factor him in because stepping up equals seeing God in your situation. Now, what it doesn't mean is factoring God doesn't mean it's always going to work out because it's not. It doesn't mean you're going to get that highest paying job. You know, it doesn't mean you're going to get the play at the first time. It doesn't mean you're going to pass that test just because you had the courage to step up. It doesn't mean you could jump and do bad decisions and assume that God is going to do something destructive. Factoring God simply means that when you see a challenge, you decide that God is bigger than your fear. It also means that you trust God is bigger than the outcome. He can give you strength and wisdom to handle it, whether the outcome is one you want or one you don't want. Because stepping up equals seeing God in your situation. So where can we start factoring God? You know, maybe you aren't sure about the pressure of serving at church because you don't like what's going on. You know, I'm a product of Holman. I've recently learned I've been here 1/3 of Holman's generation. And I came back for a reason. You know, I saw that they needed camp counselors. I saw Tia and Quincy had a newborn and needed help. And Zanetta and I stepped up and asked to be youth directors. You know, it's not too hard and not too much, but God is with you. He'll give you what you need, or maybe you're struggling with it at home and you really don't feel like you can make it better or feel like there's no point, but God is in it. He could still use you. Anything is possible. Don't count him out and don't let fear decide you. Factor in God. There was a time where I was just accomplishing so much that I was like, fear, bring it on, bring it on. And a buddy of mine asked to go snowboard, and I was like, cool, let's go. I hadn't touched a snowboard in like 5 years. So leading up the trip, he's like, how long is this gonna take? He says, an hour to get there. So we're driving, and in that trip, I'm looking at my phone, I'm looking at YouTube tutorials on how to keep my foot straight to make sure I don't fall when I get on that hill. That 1 hour drive became a 2 hour drive, and I'm like, man, just the anticipation is just in me. What do I do? How am I gonna do it? We finally get there, and there's more wait. I had to wait on the line to get my lift ticket, another 45 minutes. So I'm there, I'm looking at these videos, I'm on my phone, I'm like, all right, Joe, you got this. We're gonna get up on this hill. So I walk over to the hill, follow my buddies, because they've been here before, and I noticed a black sticker on the slope. And as I sat down, I asked the guy, I said, hey, what's this black sticker for? He said, this is the most advanced course. So as I'm going up the lift, I'm like, all right, let me go look at some more YouTube tutorials on how to keep my footing right so I don't fall. And I get up there, and I get to the top of the hill, and I look down, and it's seeing the whole entire mountain, and it's a beautiful sight. I put my headphones on. I'm getting ready to ask my buddies, hey, what do I need to do? But before I could ask them, they're already down the hill. So I sat there, and I tried to just get some courage to go. So I finally snapped on my right boot, strapped it on. I went to strap on my left boot, and I realized I never adjusted my footing, and the foot was too small, and I couldn't even get my foot in there, so I had to walk down the hill. That was the longest walk down the hill I've ever taken. But see, as I was adjusting my footing, I told myself, I'm not gonna let that hill conquer me. I'm gonna conquer it, because I came here for a reason. So I walked back over to the slope, and I saw the intermediate course, and I saw the kids half my size on there. I saw the other course. I saw more kids half my size. I said, you know what, Joe, you were already at the top of the mountain. You were already ready to go down. Why would you stop now? So I go back on that mountain. I look at some more YouTube tutorials to make sure I don't fall. I get up there and I put my headphones on, put my right foot in, then I put my left foot in. I get up and I start going down the hill. About 10 seconds, I fell. It hurt. I got back up, fell again. It hurt. And throughout that time, I just kept falling down the hill. Get back up, get back up, get back up, falling. But I realized it wasn't about me falling or getting back up, but I kept challenging myself, how long can you stay up? 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. So by the end of that time, I went to that advanced course, and you would have thought I was pro at the end of the night. I was hurting, I was in pain and out of shape, but I did it. I conquered the hill. It's that same fear I want you to think about as you head out today, and think about areas where fear is calling the shots. It could be at home, school, work, your friends, decisions in life, your faith, wherever. Pick the area where you're most tempted to step back and just factor in God. Not to get the outcome you want, but put fear in its place. That's the difference between those who step up and step back. Not everything goes the way you want, but that they don't let fear decide and fear be bigger than the God that's in them. And as we do this, regardless of what happens, we'll have more peace and more confidence because we know who goes with us. So do not fear because I am with you. Do not be dismayed because I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. Stepping up equals seeing God in your situation. Thank you.